Hello there everyone, Lars here with a very special book review brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And as I said, today is a very special book review because rather than reviewing an entire book, I'm going to be reviewing a very special chapter from a very good book, Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. And I'll be reviewing the chapter The Dog and the Dragon. This is one of the best chapters Sanderson has ever written. And I stand by that because this chapter, not only is it an emotional roller coaster ride to read within the story, but when you go back and you reflect on the story, you realize that this story, this quick story that Wit tells Kaladin in the chapter, is meant for everyone. It is Sanderson's story. It is my story. It's your story. And I want to get into all of that. This review will go as follows. First, I'm going to review the story that leads up to the chapter. I'm then going to look at the story within the chapter itself. And then I will talk about how this chapter is monumental to the character progression of Kaladin before stepping into why this is also Sanderson's story and then why it is mine and why it is yours. So, because that's quite a bit to get to, let's just get started with it. Rhythm of War is a very interesting installment within the Stormlight Archive series. The Stormlight Archive is very well categorized and well known for its massive sweeping battles, politics, character progression, incredible magic, overwhelming plot, and its relevance to the entire Cosmere, this connected universe of stories that Sanderson has written. The Stormlight Archive is huge, and I think that in years to come, people will look back at the series and say that this is truly Sanderson's magnum opus. We'll just have to see, but for those of us who are enjoying the story right now, it is incredible. But Rhythm of War is very interesting because rather than focusing on these massive battles and sweeping political schemes and all these other things that the series is well known for, Rhythm of War slows everything down and takes time to hone in on a number of characters and their personal struggles. One of the big ones being Kaladin Stormblessed, one of the main characters within the series. And Kaladin is a phenomenal character and one that a lot of people have been able to really identify with because he is a character who struggles with depression. And since that is something that a lot of people do struggle with in their private or public lives, it makes Kaladin's struggle very memorable, very personable. And so a lot of people just want Kaladin to be happy. Can the guy please not just have a day where he can just be content and pleased and happy with himself? Why is it that whenever this man gets the chance to smile, something comes and just slaps him over the head and says, "No, remember you are Kaladin Stormblessed and your life sucks." That's the way it always feels for this poor guy. And so we just want this guy to be happy, but really in this book, depression is hitting him hard. And not only that, but Kaladin by this point, he has gone through the life of a slave. He is someone who should have died multiple times. He nearly committed suicide at one point. He knows what it's like to be stripped of his powers. Even his friend Syl, sometimes his relationship with her is not what it should be. He knows that he hurts other people through the way that he acts, and he beats himself up even more for it. And it's hard for him to find joy and happiness when he's in his depressive moments. One of the very few characters who can help him out is Adolin. And within this book, Adolin is gone for most of the story, trying to patch up relations with the Honor Spren in Shadesmar. So this means that Kaladin finds himself battle-weary, alone, and basically through a series of events more or less abandoned to his own devices, with the exception of his family, Syl, and the ever-loving, amazing Storming Bridgeman and Sergeant Teft. Man, that guy's a legend. But really, as someone who has gone through depression himself and still struggles with it on a regular basis, I can tell you that even having loving people around you, it's not always easy. In fact, sometimes that can make it even harder. And Kaladin really gets to experience that. And not only is he dealing with feelings of depression and feeling abandoned, Kaladin, for a subplot that I'll be quite honest, I didn't quite get, and I feel like it really didn't add too much to the drama and everything, is that Moash is working with the god Odium to invade Kaladin's mind and plague him with these dreams that push him even further to the precipice of defeat. And yes, I can kind of see it because of where everything goes eventually by the end of the story. Kaladin's moment of realization, his redemption, which could almost be his moment where he permanently falls. That was all really well done, but I'll be very honest and say that the situation with Odium's nightmares is pretty contrived, and even within the rules of the world itself, Sanderson basically admits that he's stretching the possibility of justifying these series of nightmares Odium gives him, where Kaladin is trapped in a storm on another world where he is just being buffeted by these dark thoughts that just only serve to worsen his depression and make him to disbelieve himself, believe that others would be better off without him, and just crumble in under the weight of what it means to be human. And so now that brings us to the chapter, The Dog and the Dragon, where Kaladin meets Wit within this dream, and Wit offers him some soup and gives him a story. And there's a lot of pretty good banter with Wit and his spren design as they talk about how one should deliver a story and everything like that. It's some pretty good funny stuff. Don't skip to the end of a book and just read the last page, whatever the spren says, because you ruin the story. You don't want to ruin the story for yourself. But Wit, using his powers, reveals this incredible story where a dragon flies over a town. This beautiful, majestic, powerful alien creature to Kaladin proclaims itself as mighty and that everyone should look upon it and praise it. And there's this dog, this little dog on a farm who sees the dragon and becomes enamored with this idea of becoming a dragon himself. He's going to do it. But how can he become a dragon? Because he's just a dog. The dog decides that he must do three things. The dog must first obtain beautiful, colorful scales that will clearly show that he is a dragon. He must then be able to speak in the words of man with a powerful voice and declare that he is a dragon. And finally, he will fly like a dragon over the land for all to see. So the dog gets a little creative because obviously dogs don't have scales, but since the dog lives on a farm, there's all of these amazing, colorful seeds. The dog, not wanting to be a thief, borrows some of the farmer's seeds and helps the farmer's family plant extra plants. And when the time comes for the harvest, the dog helps to harvest these new seeds and takes the leftover seeds and rolls in them to create a nice coat of scales. But when the other dogs on the farm see him, they see a dog covered in mud and seeds, and they laugh at him and say, "You're not a dragon, go back to being a dog." Well, the dog is undeterred. The dog decides he's going to learn how to speak with a powerful voice in the words of man and dragons. However, despite his best efforts, the dog cannot make his mouth work like a human's mouth or like a dragon's mouth. So instead, the dog watches as the farmer's children learn how to read and write. And the dog gets himself some sticks, and with time he learns how to copy the letters and the words, and he eventually learns how to write in a way for humans to understand him. So he goes and he proudly shows off his new skill to the dogs. The dogs laugh at him and say, "You can't speak like a dragon. Go back to being a dog." Well, the dog can still do one thing. He can learn how to fly. So he goes into the barn and he watches as the farmer uses a pulley system to haul bales of hay up into the loft. And the dog, after figuring out a little bit of how these pulleys and ropes work, figures out that if he ties himself just right with the rope, that by pulling on a certain line and running, he can swing himself and fly up into the loft. And so he shows off how he's able to fly. And the other dogs just laugh and say, "You're not flying, you're falling with style. Go back to being a dog." Well, the dog has been defeated these 3 times. And as the dog leaves the barn, dejected, he hears a cry. The baby of the family has fallen into a well. And the well is too small for anyone to climb down in there and save the infant. And so the dog quickly gets everyone's attention. And he writes with a stick in the mud what they need to do. That they need to tie a rope to him. And he will then swing himself into the well. And he will grab the baby, yank on the rope, and they can haul him and the baby out. The family is shocked and surprised, but they do as the dog says, and the dog is able to save the infant. That night, the dog is at the table with the family, wearing a special sweater knit just for him. He's able to eat from the family's table. He gets to sleep with the family. And that night, as he's falling asleep, he says to himself, I couldn't become a dragon. I am such a failure. To which Kaladin then rants and screams at No, that's not the ending of the story. This dog is amazing. What animal on any world could do the things that this dog has done? That dog rescued a child. That dog is a storming hero. And Wit's like, yeah, he's a hero. He's not a dragon. Kaladin gets upset and he's like, so you mean I'm the dog? No matter what I do, I will never be a dragon. No matter what I do, I'll never be good enough. Wit then has to help explain something to Kaladin. Despite our failures, that in trying, we become something great. We may never become what we want to be. But that does not mean that we don't become something amazing and something that other people need in that moment, that we can't become someone that other people need. Kaladin asks, what is the ending then to this story? To which Wit responds and says, that night as the dog curled up with the family and fell asleep, thought to himself, I bet not even a dragon has ever had it so good. And then Wit says, Kaladin, you're going to fail again. That's what it means to be human. But you are going to rise up and you're going to do amazing. And then you'll fail again. And then you're going to rise up and you're going to do amazing. And you're going to fail again. That is what it means to live. But I can promise you this, Kaladin Stormblessed, that a time and day will come when you will feel warm again. When this storm is gone and you will be happy. And then you'll get sad again. But that doesn't matter because you will be happy again and again and again. That is life. And that is the message that honestly comes on to save Kaladin at his darkest moment at the end of the book. And that is one of the reasons why this chapter is so incredible. However, that is not the only reason why. When I came back to this chapter, I had a look at it, and it made me feel like I was getting a chance to look into the life of Brandon Sanderson. Sanderson is very open about his experiences as a writer and his many struggles in becoming who he has become. He has failed many, many times. And even when he had chances to write for the Wheel of Time, as Mistborn climbed in the ranks of popularity, as the Stormlight Archive did very well, and as many of his other books have honestly done fantastically, Sanderson has always been overshadowed by those who have come before. George R. R. Martin, Robert Jordan, to say nothing of Grandpa Tolkien. And what about what other people want from him? There's so many fans out there who want more from Sanderson. Why don't they give me more? Why doesn't he do what I want him to do with these characters I love so much? It frustrates me. And he gets peppered with that all the time. There's many, many things that come into his life to discourage him. There are heights that he can't obtain. He's talked about awards that he's lost, that he really wanted to win but ended up failing at. And he could eat himself up with that. But instead, what's important is to accept the defeat, accept those storms, accept those days of depression. Move on because something better is around the bend. If you continue working at it, a good day will come. And Sanderson, he has had his good days and he has had his bad. He has many more great days ahead of him. And he's got some low days ahead of him as well. But he is going to continue trucking on because that has come to define his legacy as a writer. And now, The Dog and the Dragon, this is my story too. When I read this, I I couldn't help but cry through almost the entire chapter because it spoke to me. And I am someone who I have done so much with my short years of life. I've had the chance to go to other countries, live there. I've spoken other languages. I've learned incredible things. I have multiple degrees. I've had plenty of adventures. I've learned how to walk again after losing the ability to walk for an entire year due to reconstructive surgery. I have had to deal with depression for most of my life by this point. I have beaten it time and time again, only to fall back into its clutches again. It's so frustrating. I have, for this channel, Camille's Harem, I have made over 100 videos. I have learned so much. I've had so much fun. And yet our channel isn't very big. Many would actually say, you failed. What are you doing? You've been at this now for 3 years. What's up with you? Why are you wasting your time? I've had family and friends in roundabout ways basically tell me that. They look at my writing and they say, well, congratulations. After 5 years, you've produced what? 1 novella? Sure, you have all these other books that you're waiting to publish, but what have you really accomplished? Go back. Go back to being someone else. Go back to being a person who can be happy with that 1 degree that he has. Go back to being that one person who just quotes movies and tells silly jokes. You're good at that. Do that, Lars. But for crying out loud, I want to be a dragon. I want to be up in the sky. I want to be someone who is recognized, who has influence, who has connections, friends, a steady job, so many other things. And yeah, that sounds extremely selfish, and I will fully admit that. On the not-so-selfish side, I love talking with people about writing. Oh my gosh, it brings me so much happiness and joy to talk to other writers, encourage them in their stories, see them make progress. I love it, and I love making videos that connect with people. I love meeting other fans. I love seeing the beauty that is in the world around me, and I want to be a part of all of that. I want to see other people succeed. I want to be in a place where I can just bask in someone else's amazing accomplishments and just be all like, I know that person. That person's so cool. Oh my gosh. To me, being a dragon just means so much. And yet, I have fallen so many times. But my legacy as Lars from Camille's Harem, it has been always getting up, no matter how many times I get knocked down. Still doing the things that I love, becoming better at them. Meeting more people, doing more things, accumulating more experiences, getting excited to publish my first novel here in a few months. And that is what it is. I will never be Brandon Sanderson. I will never have a legendarium like J.R.R. Tolkien. But you know what? I'm still going to do my best. I may never have a legendarium that is dedicated to me, but I'm going to work so hard, it's as though it is a legendarium. I will make the stories I want to write. I'm going to make the videos I want to make. I'm going to chase after the friendships that I want to have. I'm going to hold on tight to the good ones that I do have. I'm going to live my life and enjoy every good moment, and I'm going to learn from every bad moment. That is my story. The dog and the dragon is also your story as well. Because we all go through ups and downs. We've all had something that we wanted to do. We've all had something that we've wanted to be. And yet we have failed at it. But you know what? You can get up and you can do it again. A day will come. You will be warm again. The storms all pass eventually. And you don't know it, maybe. But there are so many people who look up to you. So many people who rely on you. It's easy to not see them in the storm. But they're there. I've had to learn that and to accept that myself. And if you're someone who struggles with depression like me, it can be very, very hard to accept that. But oh my gosh, it's true. And the day does come again. I can promise all of you guys this, just as surely as Wit can in this chapter, and just as surely as the story can promise you, you will be warm again. You will eventually succeed. And then you'll fail again. And then you'll succeed. And you'll fail again. So long as you continue on the journey, you will be succeeding. Journey before destination, Radiance. That is what it's about. The journey makes us who we are. The destination is only a fleeting moment in the long legacy of our lives. But the journey is what makes us who we are. Whether that be the special dog finally getting his day, the dragon rising above all else, the wounded soldier finding his purpose in his place, or just simply you being who you want to be and being happy with it. The Dog and the Dragon is one of the best chapters of any book I've ever read. It's one of the best I believe that's ever been written. This is Sanderson's legacy. It's one of the best. And yeah, there's not a whole much more I can say. Otherwise, I'll just continue repeating myself and rambling on. If you haven't read Rhythm of War yet, or any of the Stormlight Archive, well, what are you waiting for? Get on it! And thank you for sticking around for this whole video, because by golly, you must be really confused. But in any case, thank you so much. Eventually, I do want to do a complete review of Rhythm of War. But here on Camille's Harem, we try to give everyone in the harem a chance to review a book or a story that they really enjoy. And there is another review that I really do need to give attention to when my time comes around again. So, that all being said, if you would like to find some good writing advice or some other reviews, especially reviews for horrible fanfics, then please go check out our podcast, Camille's Harem, found on Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. We also have writing exercises for those writers out there to be found over at our Pinterest page, and we also have writing discussions over at our subreddit. Links for all of those sites are in the description, and thank you so much for joining us on this adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.